Hey, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor Live on SIFTD.net. Today, we're going to talk about what's going on at Microsoft, but before we get to that, I've got to do the paid commercial. I don't get paid. You guys have to remember, please, to attach your Amazon Prime account and your Twitch Prime account. That allows Shane to get paid by Amazon. It costs you absolutely nothing. Any of you who are as so gracious as to support us on Patreon or as a YouTube subscriber, thank you very much. That's keeping us going. Whether you are subscribing or not, please try to remember to link those Twitch Prime and Amazon Prime accounts. Let's talk about what's going on at Microsoft and massive layoffs. Cancellation of game projects. I remember specifically Perfect Dark. I can't name all the other games that they've canceled. Uneven performance of their titles. They've made some very, very good games. I think that like Doom was really, really good. I expect that you're going to see really good games from them in the future. But what's going on there? I think they bit off more than they could chew with all these acquisitions all at once. And, all at once meaning in about a 3-year period, they bought, something like 8 or 9 different game publishers, but biggest being Bethesda and Activision. And I think Activision really was the straw that broke the camel's back. And why is it, Activision immensely profitable? Why was that bad for them? Microsoft was in the midst of a pivot. They were going away from focus on console sales and trying to pivot to focusing on Game Pass sales. And I'm famously on record as saying I thought they'd have 200 million Game Pass customers in the next 10 years. They're making no progress toward that. Why is that? And it's because they're still doing, game development the way everybody's always done game development. They're still running Game Pass the way it started, and they haven't evolved. So what's happened there is they made a bad decision to raise the price of Game Pass on the console to $20. It had been significantly cheaper. It's $10 on PC, but it had been in that $15 range, and they jacked it up to $20. They have not materially increased the amount of content, but what that did was it caused people to not buy an Xbox and sign up for Game Pass, play Call of Duty, get it for free, and quit. And so I think that what we've seen is increased churn on Game Pass. They're not supporting it enough, and I don't think that they've really thought through how to do it because they're doing the same thing they did when they formed it. They are continuing to make games as if they're going to sell into a giant console market, and they pivoted away from Xbox exclusive titles to now they're starting to put titles on PlayStation as well. But again, the PlayStation audience doesn't know most of these games. So, sure, there'll be an audience for Forza and Halo, maybe. Gears of War, yes. Perfect Dark would not have done well. So I think that Microsoft has to kind of rethink its strategy. I can come up with a whole bunch of ways that they can fix the company. First thing is they have a lot of free content like Candy Crush, like Diablo Immortal, like Call of Duty Warzone and Call of Duty Mobile. Why not put that on Game Pass? They're not thinking about how to make Game Pass a bigger habit. And I am not suggesting that a person who signs up for Game Pass and pays $20 a month is a Candy Crush player. He's not. But his mom is, or his wife is. And if the wife sees that there's games there that she wants to play, or if the kid sees there's a game that he wants to play, Call of Duty Mobile or Call of Duty Warzone or even Diablo Immortal, you're going to have the family participating, and I think it's an easier sell. Why not follow the lead of Netflix and offer an ad-supported subscription? Now, Netflix doesn't have ad only. They have ads plus $8 a month. But Netflix has announced kind of repeatedly that they are approaching parity. And parity, P-A-R-I-T-Y, parity means that the amount of money that they get from an ad-supported subscriber is equal to the amount they get from an ad-free subscriber.
This episode of Pachter Factor is brought to you by DeShazer Ryan Realty. It's time to find out why everyone is buying homes in Montana. Right now, Doug DeShazer has a beautiful single-level home with a triple-car garage available in the best neighborhood in Libby, Montana. This custom 3-bed, 2.5-bath home has a 500 square foot patio for entertaining. It's built to last with solid wood core doors, Anderson windows, an asphalt driveway, central AC and heat, and a private well to run its sprinkler system. The price was recently reduced, and owner financing is available with 20% down. No matter where you're looking to buy in the US, Doug DeShazer is licensed to help. Make him your real estate consultant at 406-291-1643. That's Doug DeShazer at 406-291-1643, or go to LibbyMontanaRealestate.com.
So, Netflix charges $17.99 and they charge $7.99 plus ads. They're telling you they're making around $9 a month. They need to get to 10 to achieve parity. That's fine. What happened? That turned literally about a quarter of Netflix customers into ad-supported customers. Is that good or bad? Well, if they make the same amount of money, it's irrelevant to them. But for the customer, it keeps them. It makes them happy because it costs less. So the consequence of not generating enough revenue and continuing to spend money like a drunken sailor on an old model of game development to support exclusive console titles results in lower forecasts for the game sales. They have to cut costs because if they expect that instead of selling 15 million copies of Gears of War, they're going to sell 10, then they're not going to put as much money into the game development, which results in a worse game. You get games being developed where there's a pivot from single player to multiplayer and back and forth. That's kind of the story at Sony. That's the story at EA. They did that with Dragon Age Veilguard. And everybody wants live services, but they're trying to incorporate it into the old console model, where here you got Microsoft, who has live services with Candy Crush, Call of Duty Warzone, Call of Duty Mobile, and Diablo Immortal, and obviously others. I mean, they have Hearthstone and other things. They could be doing this right away and have live services on Game Pass, but it hasn't occurred to them. And, what's the fix? Well, the problem, I think, with most business is that when they start to lose money, the initial response to money-losing operations is to save your way to prosperity. So they spend less and less and less, and as they spend less and less and less, their customers recognize a decline in quality or availability of content or whatever, and the customers disappear, and so the businesses go out of business. And it's sort of like, if you really want to be McDonald's and you want to appeal to a household that has a vegetarian in it, offer salads. And if you see that you're not selling very many salads and you cut that out, you're going to lose that household. If you have the salads, all the other burger eaters are going to show up at your restaurant. So you can't look at salads in a vacuum and say we're not making money from that. I think Microsoft is doing that. I think that's the problem. I think that they're looking at each different piece of their puzzle in a vacuum, and they're not thinking about how it all works together. Layoffs are terrible. It's disruptive to the families and to the workers. It continues to be a terrible industry to get a job in. If I was talking to some new person who said I really want to break into the video game industry, I would do my best to talk them out of it. The model has to change in order for it to actually work. Now, famous last words, there's going to come a day where we've bottomed and we've gotten rid of all the fat. And now all we're left with is muscle and bone, and the industry's ready to start growing again and healthy. Maybe we're there. I don't know. But my suspicion is that these companies are so wedded to the past and so blissfully unaware of how expensive it is to develop a game for, look at GTA, 12 years, before you can get the game out, that they are just not prepared for the amount that they have to spend. And so they're spending, $100 million before they even decide if the game looks like it might be something they should go forward with. Too much. So Microsoft just can't do it. You can look at Microsoft shares, they're at an all-time high. Why is that? Because the company runs itself for a profit, and the Xbox division is not making the profit that I think management at Microsoft expected. So will we see more layoffs? Probably not. I don't know, but I would have said that the last round of layoffs. I think they probably are pretty close to getting their act together. They've got to pivot that model for Game Pass and make it more profitable, and I think that's something they can do. The business model that supported the Xbox ecosystem is gone, and the sales on PlayStation are not making up for it. They're a fraction of what they would have gotten if they just stayed exclusive and sold Xboxes. But Game Pass screwed that up, so they can't sell Xboxes. So the net is, yes, they're salvaging something, and of course they should do it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to be on PlayStation. They're not replacing the lost revenues that they would have had they sold more Xboxes, had more Xbox Live memberships, had more microtransactions on Xbox, kept all of that. They're just losing their, the net, they're probably down 20 or 30 or 40% per game. I know that a lot of people are kind of putting the puzzle pieces together, and they see Microsoft spending $80 billion on AI, and they say, this must be it. This is not it. I do think AI will build games. That is not what's going on this week or this month or this year. The $80 billion Microsoft is spending on AI is more focused on how to incorporate processing power and cloud, so server farms in the cloud and cloud storage, into commercial AI applications. And they're not spending $80 billion to help their game development. Will it help game development? Sure. They're spending $80 billion so that the Department of Defense and the Social Security Administration put their entire database on Azure and put on the Microsoft cloud, and that all voting systems are on the cloud, and that they can track you from cradle to grave and keep all your records there. They need to spend that to make sure, and same with advertising targeting and consumer preference and shopping history and anything else. All of that stuff ends up on the cloud, and they're not spending it for games. I mean, I get that you guys who are Microsoft observers think that it's a games company first, but it's not. It's probably a cloud company first now. Is games part of that? Of course. They're not laying off their games makers now because of that. Ultimately, yes, of course, they will make games more simply, but I think you should think about AI in a games context the way that you think about the internet or local PCs in a word processing context. So, did that replace me? Nope. Replace the secretary. She doesn't exist anymore. But it doesn't replace me. It makes me more productive, and I get paid more because of it. That's what the cloud's going to do to video game development. You're going to eliminate probably a lot of quality testers. You're going to eliminate a lot of artists. And I'm talking about commoditized art, not custom, cool, creative art. And just thinking for an example, if you wanted to put, let's say, a ship sailing into the harbor in the game Sea of Thieves or something, you would have an artist design the ship because you want it to look like a cool pirate ship. But then AI can take that ship and twist it in 50 different directions, and you don't have to have an artist render it every single time. That's what AI does. And is that going to happen? Yes. Has it already happened? Yes. That is not why Microsoft is laying off game people. In fact, Microsoft's hiring like crazy on the cloud side. Plenty of engineers, plenty of people trying to figure out how to build these server farms efficiently. And most of the $80 billion, I'd say, is probably more hardware than anything else to build out their cloud infrastructure, but it is not why they're laying people off. So again, I think that AI is a cool thing and is going to revolutionize the world the way the internet revolutionized the world. Back in 1995, you couldn't conceive that you would stream a movie to your phone. Like, just couldn't even think about something like that happening. Or that you could buy groceries and they'd be delivered the same day. Like, we tried it. There was a company called Webvan, of all things, that tried it in 2000 and went bankrupt. So, and actually the guy who founded a game company that had the word star in it. I forgot the name. But anyway, he ended up selling his company and made a ton of money. But no, the internet revolutionized everything. Think of AI that way. So Microsoft's investing $80 billion because they see this as like Web 4.0. This is more take the metaverse to the next level. That is not why they're laying off game people. So fellow babies, thank you again for joining Pachter Factor Live on SIFTD.net. If you're a Patreon patron or YouTube subscriber, we appreciate it very, very much. You're keeping Shane in chips and he can keep making the show. If you are a subscriber or not, would you please try to remember to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account? That is free for you. Amazon pays. It's part of your $140 a year subscription. So stick it to them. Make them pay. All you have to do is check out the show description below. There's instructions on how to link that. It's a 3-click process. You have to do it every month. So if you haven't done it in a while, please do it again right now. Thanks for joining us on Pachter Factor Live. I will see you, my fellow babies, next week.